picking up on this conversation of affordability and what can be done to keep affordability across all neighborhoods in Tacoma.
Yeah, so I think, I talked earlier about we've got to make sure that there's affordability in every neighborhood. But I think the other thing that's really important for us to understand is that we've got to be able to develop in neighborhoods. I mean, the diverse neighborhoods can't just be the rundown neighborhoods in Tacoma. We've got to really, the Bay Area did this study called Development Without Displacement. And I think there are some really key elements in there that we can learn from in Tacoma to be able to understand that if we build a new school across the street from you, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to move. That we've got to figure out how to make sure that people can stay in those neighborhoods, but we can still develop and invest in those neighborhoods.
And this is an issue that we've seen a lot in Seattle. We've seen City Hall in Seattle struggle with in terms of how do you work with developers and encourage them, incentivize them to continue development while also providing affordability. So what ideas, as a former architect, what ideas do you have on that front?
I spent my career working with public agencies, with communities and developers to invest and to get these projects completed in all sorts of neighborhoods and communities all over the Northwest. What we need to do, first of all, is get our city reliable. If we're going to do projects, and I could name projects across our city that can't get permits. They don't have good answers, and so they're at risk. And there are companies, actually small little businesses that have gone bankrupt because they can't get good answers from our city. That is a key factor, and that has to happen across the board. And that's happened in McKinley, it's happened on 6th Avenue, and that's got to change. That's fundamental in changing the culture of how we really relate to our citizens. And that is kind of the root issue to me. Now, what we can do as far as where these residential projects go, or we have mixed-use centers in Tacoma, but we need to communicate how those are going to develop over time with those residential neighborhoods so they don't feel that they're being pushed out. And we do have residential that are apartments in these neighborhoods. That communication needs to be early with the neighborhoods. And I brought that up in neighborhood councils a year ago, that we need to start communicating early in project development. And when we have those projects happen, we need to tie permanent affordable housing to those that are not deleted at some point in the future. That will allow those units to remain in the affordable range. And so we need to be more effective. I also believe that we have a lot of areas that I call commercial that isn't really effective commercial. It could be in residential, and bring more opportunities for residential into a lot of our neighborhood areas.
I think there, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I think as we talk about giving tax incentives, we have to make sure those tax incentives are not just for 8 or 12 years, but they're actually for the full time of the project. I also think we've got to make sure that as we work with people who provide low-income housing, like Tacoma Housing Authority, that we've got to get more people who are developing affordable and low-income housing in Tacoma. And when we talk about mixed-use centers, which is really important about affordability, affordability is not just about how much you actually pay for your rent. When we're talking about building in these mixed-use centers, affordability means how close am I to transit? Affordability means, do I have to get in my car and drive to a grocery store? So if we develop in these mixed-use centers where we're able to put in grocery stores and other amenities so you don't have to get in your car and walk everywhere, or you can walk outside and get on the Link light rail, or get on a bus and be able to go somewhere, we're addressing affordability in a whole nother way that I think is helpful to everyone who lives in the city.